Hi everyone, welcome to a special video. We're going to aquascape this Awase Highline 400, but we're going to do it at the Twin Star Europe headquarters here near Lisbon in Portugal. So I'm here for a few days. I'm doing a workshop at Solaqua. I've visited Florestas Submersus and I've had a lovely time basically with Ricardo and Ivo. So thank you to those guys. But without further ado, let's talk about what we're going to do today. Island style aquascape, specifically for Discus. So a very interesting fish to keep in a planted tank. I've got experience with this. Ricardo knows what he's doing, I'm sure. He's got some beautiful Discus, which I'll show you later. But I wanted to really show off these fish the best I could. So we're just going to use Echinodora species today. So Amazon swords. We've got a really beautiful variety here from tropical aquarium plants. We're going to use a white sand cosmetic foreground, and then we're going to actually use round pebbles to accentuate the round shape of the fish. And then, like I said, beautiful Amazon swords in the midground and the background, ranging from green to green with red flecks all the way through to red. So that's going to kind of be like an island composition in the background. We're going to use tropical aquarium soil in the background to feed the plant roots, and like I said, the white sand is there actually not just to kind of add contrast, but it really helps to lift the colours of the fish. Discus seem to want to blend in with their background, and because we've already got a black background here on the high line, it's actually like black glass. You can't not have a black background. And you had a dark soil, it's really going to make the fish dark, which I've experienced before. So that's why we're using that white sand foreground, which will need to be maintained appropriately, of course, to keep it white. So I've got some beautiful materials here to work with, supplied, of course, by Twin Star Strideways here. Some amazing driftwood, some beautiful roundish sort of pebbly stones, some beautiful plants. Let's get going. So let's just talk about the equipment before we actually start aquascaping. The Awase Highline 400, many of you have seen this already on my channel. It's about 5 foot long by about 2 foot by 2 foot. A bit less than that altogether. Holds around 400 litres, 100 US gallons. Comes with a dry weir, so that means the cables and your filter hoses, etc. don't need to go over the side of the tank. So the tank can actually be moved right up against your wall. Comes with an aluminium hood, just really high quality build, German engineering. It comes with the Biomaster friendly drawer for maintaining the Biomaster. This has the 850 thermo fitted. It will probably have CO2 injection as well. The water temperature is important. Discus, obviously 28 degrees Celsius, so the thermo, the 400 watt heater is going to be really helpful here. It would be remiss of me not to mention the awesome lighting that we're going to be using. This is the Twin Star 140G Plus. We've got 2 units there. They come with a controller, so you can control the photo period and the intensity. Set as appropriate. Probably won't be anywhere near maximum because the plants won't need that much light. So yeah, just a really, really lovely, high-level, high-end premium system for some premium fish, featuring premium plants and premium hardscape. So first step will be to install the hardscape. The wood will want to float, probably, so we do have some Awase foam fix to fix that in position. So we'll take a little bit of time positioning the wood first, then the stones, if indeed we do use stones. I'm not 100% yet. And then it will be a case of the gravel and then probably the sand. So let's get the wood in next. Okay, whenever I'm doing hardscape, I always start off with the biggest piece first and then work my way down in size. So you can orientate it in different positions, put it in different places in the aquarium. And the whole idea is to make it look as natural as possible, bearing in mind what you're kind of finished, if you have a finished kind of vision of what you expect. So when I look at this piece now, I can see it's quite interesting, this kind of horizontal piece here, and that could act as like a natural boundary between the sand and the soil. So you'd plant all behind that wood there and then leave the soil in front, leave the sand in front, I should say. So that's one option. So let's just carry on with that idea. Now go down to the next biggest piece. And again, if we followed that same concept of using the wood as a natural kind of barrier between the cosmetic sand and the soil, that would probably look quite effective under there. It's looking a little bit symmetrical at the moment, so we can potentially offset that with a third piece, again going down in size. And the whole idea is to kind of make all of the pieces look natural, maybe as if they're one giant piece joined together, or at least it looks coherent. You know, you wouldn't necessarily want them to be mixing types of wood up in this sort of layout. I quite like that as a concept. So we have, this has definitely thrown off the symmetry somewhat, which is good. We have a distinct area in front of the wood which we can add sand to, and then we could probably just use the smaller pebbles actually to also help act as a barrier. So I think that works really well. And you've got kind of rule of thirds here. This is about a third of the way from the right, or 2/3 from the left. You've got this is about a third from the left. And then we can use the plants to accentuate any focal points as well. So I'm quite happy with that. Let's move on to our stones. So we'd often go for the biggest stone first, which would be this one here. And I think that might slot in quite nicely around here. Nice, yeah. So it looks a bit unnatural at the moment because we haven't got the substrate in. But this is great because this interface where the wood meets the stone is a perfect place where we can add our glue or later, or foam fix. So now again, let's work our way down in size. So I think it's important to not rush this process. Enjoy it. Take your time. You know, I'm working with a little bit of a time limit today, but still, if you're doing it at home, you know, it's a hobby, something to be enjoyed for the sake of enjoying it, with no fixed kind of goal, really. You're just enjoying the process. I quite like that because it looks quite coherent with this kind of line running through the whole length of the aquarium. So that's the main concept, the wood behind the pebbles, the stones, whatever you want to call them, boulders. Now time to put our substrate in. So I think I'll put the soil in first, then plant, then white sand, because the action of planting in the soil is just going to get grains all over the white sand. So if we put the white sand in at the end, that makes perfect sense to me. Before I put the soil in, I'm actually going to glue everything in place. So the idea is we glue the wood to the boulders, and that stops the wood from floating away. So what I've done now is I've actually opened up a few more boxes and added the smaller stones, pebbles, around the bigger ones, just to make it look more natural and act as more of a stronger barrier, actually. Okay, time to now put our soil in the background. So I didn't press the record button, and as you can see, I've already planted the Echinodorus ozolot green, so no problem. We'll go through the same process with the other species, so you've not missed out. But I've just planted it kind of intermittently along just behind the wood there, and again, they're going to repeat that process with the other mid-ground Echinodorus. We've got the Rini. So this is more of a colourful one, so we don't want to draw the eye too much. So I won't plant it in one single group because that's really going to draw the eye. We want to draw the eye with a red diamond. So I think I'm just literally going to repeat that process with the Rini as I did with the Ocelot Green. Let's give it a bit of a spray. Really important that we don't let the plants dry out. Some plants are more susceptible than others, but if a plant does dry out too much, it can damage the plant tissue, and then that will lead to issues later down the line. So we really need to look after our plants as much as possible, even during the planting process. It's always a good idea to buy your plants as fresh as possible from your supplier or your shop, your retailer. Ask them when they get their delivery in, and then get them the same day if I was you, if possible. So a very basic layout today. We really want to showcase the fish as well as the plants, but the fish are really the main attraction, you know, these beautiful discus fish. So next species is the Echinodorus aquatica. This is probably going to stay the shortest, so I'll put this towards the front. Okay, let's plant in the background now. Let's do the Echinodorus red diamond to start with, because that is, I want that to be our kind of real focal point plant. So I'm going to plant this as one big group, 1/3 from the left, so around here. We use the rule of thirds a lot in aquascaping. It's just a really nice way to position a focal point. It's the most aesthetically kind of pleasing balance that you can achieve, and it's really easy to use in, you know, photography or aquascaping or any kind of art form, really. I've actually got this in my Awase Highline 400 at home, so it's quite nice to use it again in another Highline 400. Okay, last but not least, the classic kind of Amazon sword that everyone has probably heard of. This is Echinodorus Guzbackii Bleri, and it's actually quite a small specimen at the moment. So these are quite young plants from Tropica. Normally they do come a little bit bigger, so they will grow quite considerably. This is going to form the background kind of curtain effect, so this will stay bright green and it will act as a really nice contrast against the redder Amazon swords in front. And the idea about using Amazon swords is it's just a really classic plant with so many different varieties, and actually because they've all got a similar texture, if you use that texture throughout an aquascape, you get a real strong theme to the aquascape. And because we're really wanting to show off the fish, it's really ideal to keep with that a very strong kind of simple theme. We don't want to confuse the aquascape and kind of distract ourselves from the fish. And this is an important lesson, you know, what are you optimizing for when you're aquascaping? You know, what are you actually doing it for? Are you wanting to kind of experiment with loads of different plant species and practice your kind of horticulture skills? Or do you want to have something much more kind of low maintenance, doesn't need so much attention, but you can just sort of relax and enjoy it more rather than constantly tinkering around with it? You know, so really think about what your motivation is to start with when you're aquascaping before you even consider, you know, your aquascape design. So this is going to be quite a challenging layout to maintain because of the fish. You know, discus do like very warm water. We're talking a minimum probably of 28 degrees Celsius or 82 Fahrenheit. This is the upper end of what most plants find comfortable. So, you know, you are going to potentially run into algae issues if you're not careful, if you're not diligently maintaining the aquarium. You know, big water changes, really good filtration, not overfeeding, removing any excess kind of uneaten food, especially with discus. Now the good thing is, I'm hopeful that because the swords are going to grow, fill in the background, the fish will have to swim kind of in front of the swords or in between them, which will look really cool. But by doing so, they'll be in front, hopefully, of the white sand, and that's really going to reflect the light and really show off those the fish colours to the best. So the idea is I pour all the sand all the way to the front of the glass, and then I push it to the rear, and then hopefully that fills the void, those gaps underneath those pebbles and boulders and stones, so it will hopefully help to prevent that soil from coming forward, because it always looks a little bit ugly when you have this beautiful white sand and then these horrible black balls basically spoiling the view. So I really like the contrast of the sand and the white, you know, the light and the dark. And the shape of the round sort of textures really will suit the fish, of course. Okay, what I'm going to do now is actually light up the aquarium properly with the amazing Twinstar 140G Plus, which we have 2 of. Now, as these won't be run at 100%, I would suggest for a while at least. So these are completely waterproof. I've dropped mine a few times already in my tank. It's absolutely no problem. I will need to turn the exposure down on the video, I'm sure. It's going to be super bright. Okay, so we're ready for water now. Now we'll suggest that this white sand might be a bit dirty and cloud the water, so we'll have to put it in slow. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn my microphone on, so I'm doing a voiceover on this section. Apologies for the voice not matching the image that you can see. So the tank is now filled with water. It's actually the next day, and as you can see, water clarity is perfect. Lighting looks amazing. I haven't actually adjusted the saturation on the video edit, so you can just see how deep those colours are. I think it looks really natural. It's a beautiful aquascape for the Discus, which will go in a few weeks once the tank's cycled and the plants have become established. It's a very simple layout, as discussed. It's designed to showcase the fish in a simple but effective layout and really showcases the Twinstar lighting as well, of course. So thanks so much to Ricardo from Twinstar, and also to Ivo Suarez from Sol Aqua, I should say. Do check out the shop tour video that I released recently. I'll leave a link to that in the top right hand of the screen now. I've had such a great trip, visited Florestad Submersas. I did do a walk around of Florestad Submersas, but it was so busy and I only had my phone and it didn't really do it the justice it deserves, so I'm not sure if I'll release that. Yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. I do have fond memories the first visit. It was a big part of my kind of trajectory of YouTube, taking YouTube seriously, and I'll always be ever grateful, not just for that, but also to Takashi Amane and himself, who's pretty much largely responsible for why I do what I do. Hugely inspirational. So I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Hopefully I'll be visiting again maybe next year, and the tank might still be going strong and with the Discus in. And yeah, just hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.
So, in 2025, more than 10 million visitors already.
Wow.
In the first 6 months, already 500,000. In just the first 6 months.
Yeah. It just shows the attraction of a decent aquascape, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I will do my office here.